over today a topic that I get asked a lot about, and it's coming from the question that I get asked, how do I know if I'm doing enough in the gym? And I really hate that word, enough, because I think it's subjective. Because I think depending upon your current state, what your goals are, your ability, your fitness level, what your nutrition is, what your, underlying other stressors in your life are, enough for one person is going to be different than somebody else's enough. So I want to go over some differences between undertraining and overtraining, and then leave the decision up to you whether or not you can push it more in your workouts, or if maybe you need to scale it back a little bit and let your body recover in between sessions. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the concept of homeostasis. The body wants to be in a spot where your internal conditions of the body remain relatively constant and stable at all times. So what this means is that if you subject your body to any sort of change, or let's say it's even as simple as you change what time you wake up in the morning, your body actually goes through a series of adaptations to then find a new homeostasis. So whatever you do to your body for enough period of time, it eventually is going to adapt to. That's a really important concept to understand when you're talking about undertraining and overtraining, that if you've, first of all, been doing some sort of training regime, some routine, something for an extended period of time and you're no longer seeing results, realize that your body may have adapted. Say you've been doing overhead presses 10 pounds for a couple months now. It's not gonna be as hard for you. You may find that you can do more reps, or maybe you're leaving your workout and you're kind of like, yeah, I think I worked out, but you've kept the same weights. Well, your body over time has adapted to lift that weight. It's now adapted to get stronger, to be able to push that weight that you've constantly been loading onto it. So it stands to reason that if now you have gotten stronger with 10-pound weights, you are going to need to up your weight now to create new stress on your body. When it comes to training, this adaptation is basically just your body responding to some sort of stressor. The volume, the weights, the reps, and the tempo that you use in your training. Some of you guys might be watching this and you're like, I go to the gym, 3 to 5 times a week. I lift my certain sets, I do my certain reps, and I get out of there and I haven't seen any progress. Well, how long have you been doing that for? Because at some point your body has adapted, and now you're in this place of homeostasis where it's like, okay, yeah, so I've been lifting this way, I've adapted to this, I'm not gonna make any more changes because I have made the changes that I'm gonna make to be able to handle this new environment. So in the beginning, you may have gained some muscle mass, you may have lost some weight, you may have lost some fat, because you were going from 0 times a week to 3 times a week. But at some point, your body has adapted to that. So maybe now to get the next response from your training, you need to actually up your volume. So maybe you need to go 5 times a week instead of 3. If that's not an option, then maybe you need to vary your reps. Maybe you need to do higher reps. Maybe you need to do lower reps depending upon what your goals are. Maybe the weight has become not challenging for your body anymore. Maybe you need to increase the weight over time. Maybe you're taking too long of breaks in between your sessions and you're using it for more of a social hour. You're going in there and you're talking to a cute girl, you're hanging out with your girlfriends, whatever, and you're not actually getting in there and employing mind to muscle and actually feeling the muscles doing the work. You're basically going through the motions. That would be considered undertraining. And maybe you have changed a couple things when it comes to rep ranges and you still believe that nothing's working. Well, have you looked at the intensity of your workouts? A number one factor in if this workout is enough is if your heart rate's getting up there. Clients that I work with, we find out later on down the road that they're actually not pushing themselves in their HIIT sessions as much as they could. So I tell them to start monitoring their heart rate. In order to reach an effective fat burning interval, you want to get your heart rate to be 75% or higher of your maximum heart rate. A quick way to determine what that is, take your age, subtract it from 220, and multiply it by 0.75. That's the minimum where you should get your heart rate to go. If you don't have one of those fancy watches, it's okay, neither do I. Stick your 2 fingers right here and find your pulse. Time yourself on your watch or in your head, whatever. Count the number of beats after your interval in 10 seconds and multiply that by 6. That's a great way to self-check and be able to gauge the intensity of your workout, even halfway through your workout. Another great indicator of undertraining is if you're able to hold a conversation. Now, I totally agree that having a gym buddy with you is awesome. It's a great way to hold yourselves accountable and go to the gym, but being able to have an entire conversation with your buddy is a great indicator that you're not pushing yourself as hard. In between sets, as you're walking over to a new machine, whatever, But having full-on conversations when you're at the gym is a surefire indicator that you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Because if you're at 75% of your heart rate, especially during those intervals, you shouldn't be able to hold a conversation. Some people will use sweat as an indicator of a great workout, but that's not always the best indication because some people are just more prone to sweat than others, and it has nothing to do with whether or not they're working hard or not. Me, I'm a sweater, but I have plenty of girlfriends that we can go through the same workout. Their heart rate is elevated, but they're not sweating the way that I sweat. Another indication of undertraining is that you're not even a little sore the next day or 24 hours after. Now, delayed onset muscle soreness can occur anywhere from 24 to 72 hours after your workout. But the reason you want to feel sore is because when you are working out, when you are lifting, you are actually creating stress on your muscles and you're tearing them down. And this is a good thing because now they need to adapt. Your muscles need to be able to repair themselves and get stronger so that you can continue to work out in this fashion, continue to push this load, resistance, get your heart rate up, whatever. So if you want to feel at least a little bit sore after your workouts, if you're not sore at all, it's probably a good indication that you didn't stimulate them enough for them to grow and for you to see the results that you want. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is another indication of undertraining is if you're bored. What? There's no way that you can be bored if you are actually employing the techniques, if you are focusing on your mind to muscle connection, if you're pushing the weight, if you're focusing on your tempo, if you're cutting down on rest times. You cannot be bored. So if you go to the gym and you tell me that you are bored, you are under training. You are not getting the biggest bang for your buck in the gym. Okay, so maybe you've been watching this and you're like, okay, yeah, I definitely need to push it. Here's a couple of things you can do to up your training. Number one, try to work each body part. Instead of once a week maybe, try to work it twice a week. Another great way is to start wearing a stopwatch. You may have seen me before on some of my Instagram posts. I actually go ahead and time my workouts right here. I've also used an interval app, which I'll put right here, which is great. You can set it yourself and actually plays through your music. It's awesome. It's also a really great way if you're short on time because it's going to cut down on those 3, 5, 7 minute long sessions where you're sitting there on your phone in between sets. Another thing you can do is change your tempo. So you may have seen me demonstrate before the use of negatives in some of my lifts. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna focus on a 3 to 4 count negative. So you can also add in pulses. So maybe go to the bottom here and then you're just gonna keep the tension and pulse for a little bit. Or isometric holds. Add in any of these techniques to change up your training and to solicit a different response from your body. Again, if you're not seeing results and you feel you are undertraining, it's because your body has adapted. Moving over into overtraining. Here's how to tell if you are overtraining. And again, like undertraining, if you are overtraining, doesn't necessarily ever adapt because you're overdoing the stressors on your body. But what ends up happening is instead of making those gains, instead of losing the fat, instead of building the muscle, your body's basically saying, dude, I'm stressed out, I can't do it anymore. And fat loss, muscle gain stalls and or starts to regress. First thing to understand about training is it's not the actual lifting, it's not the actual training that is building your lean mass. It is the rest period that comes after that. When you lift, you are tearing down your muscles. In order for them to get stronger and bigger and leaner, they need to proper rest and recovery. And a lot of that comes with being able to manage the stressors after. So your sleep needs to be on point, your water needs to be on point, and your nutrition needs to be on point. Now, sometimes it is difficult to tell if you're overtraining because it's hard to tell whether you're just sore from training or you're sore from overtraining. But if you're feeling pain that's lasting longer than 72, 96 hours, you are experiencing achy muscles, you're experiencing irritability, maybe you're not sleeping very well, you could be overtraining. There are actually 2 ways to describe undertraining. One is overusing those muscles, and number 2 is not fueling your body properly for that type of exercise. So again, if you're only eating here and you're training here, you are overtraining for the amount of calories that you are feeding your body. So how do you know if you're overtraining? Well, there's a couple signs. Number 1 is obvious, it's decreased performance in the gym. So let's say you're not able to lift as heavy as you could a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago, or your endurance has slowed down, you're not able to push as hard in some of your sprints. That is a clear sign that you are overtraining. Whether or not it's because you just lifted that muscle group or you just did sprints 2 days ago, to do them now 48 hours later, you are technically overtraining because you have not allowed your body to recover enough. And what happens is if it hasn't built up enough, they're still depleted and they're torn and they're down here. If you don't allow your body to repair and rebuild, basically you're starting from here now and you keep pulling it lower and lower and lower. So at some point, you're just breaking down your muscle mass. You're not allowing them to build back up to here so you can tear them again, so you can build them. You just keep knocking them further and further and further. And what happens is your body actually starts to catabolize on your muscle mass. Number 2 is excess fatigue. And this for me is number 1. And again, fatigue can stem from so many other things. It could be just didn't sleep very well last night, but again, your body is under duress. It didn't get enough sleep. It wasn't able to rebuild and recover. So now, even though just you didn't get enough sleep, you go in there and you start training again, your body is basically compromised. Instead of starting from here, it's starting from here and you're demanding more out of it. So yes, that would be considered overtraining. Another for sure sign of overtraining is your mood. Absolutely, it's your mood. What happens when your body's stressed out? Whether it's mental stress from work, from kids, from home life, from relationship, whatever, or physical stress as in lifting and tearing down muscles, your body releases the hormone cortisol. And cortisol is a good hormone. I could do a whole nother video on this. Cortisol is actually a good hormone because it increases your insulin production. And in the case of lifting, you want the surge of insulin to push that glycogen to those torn muscles so that it helps it rebuild stronger and leaner. But if you have chronic stress, it'll actually start to affect your mood. They affect your hormones. When cortisol is released, so is adrenaline. So if your cortisol levels are high and your adrenaline is released into the bloodstream, you might even have a problem sleeping. So another, in my opinion, obvious sign could be that you have chronic or lasting injuries. So if you're constantly hurting yourself or an injury keeps coming back, you're not allowing for your body to properly heal. And therefore you continue to re-injure or injure yourself, or it never goes away. And I know so many of us live for the pain. We think no pain, no gain. We want to push through all this. But at some point, your body will begin to work against you. And like I described in the beginning of this video, our bodies want to be in homeostasis. And so if you're constantly throwing all of these excess stressors on your body actually starts to solicit the fight or flight response. And this fight or flight response actually is forcing your body to adapt to these new stressors. And in order to do that, it's not going to release fat for oxidation, for energy. It's going to hold on to it because it doesn't know how long this stressor is going to be around. And its number 1 priority is your survival. So if this sounds like you, I highly recommend building into your routine a rest and recovery day. And even if it's an active rest, even if it's walking around the block or 20 minutes of foam rolling, because I guarantee you, if you allow your body more time to rest and recover, you are going to be able to hit it 1,000 times harder the next day. So what do we do? Chances are, if you're watching this video, it's likely because you have plateaued. And why do we plateau? Great question. We either plateau because there's too much stress on our body or not enough stress. So you're either overtraining or undertraining. In the next slides, I'm going to put a bulleted recap of signs to look for if you think you could be under and or overtraining, and to better help you determine whether or not you need to push it a little bit more in the gym, or maybe you need to go ahead and give yourself a rest day, a self-love day. Helpful for you. It was a very generic overview, and in my coming videos I will talk a little bit more about stressors. Stress as it pertains to you will really depend on your current state, your goals, your fitness level, where your diet is, and any other life stressors outside of the gym. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that this was helpful. It's getting a little dark in here, so hopefully this turns out okay. But I will see you guys all in my next video. Thanks for watching.